My name is Ravi Chandra. People call me Ravi. I'm basically a gentleman of leisure. So this year when we were doing the Bangalore Hubba, of which I'm the chief facilitator, obviously the arts and culture bit was easier to do. I mean, it's easy to throw together music gigs, theater, dance, and the like. But we said that we must have a module around interesting conversations. And the thing that struck me, Jawaharlal Nehru back in 1962, when he visited Bangalore in 1962, he said, and I'm paraphrasing him, he said, many cities in India remind you of the past, some cities remind you of the present, but Bangalore is the only city that reminds you of the future of what India can be. So the irony is Jawaharlal Nehru said this while opening the Bangalore Municipal Corporation in 1962. And I just hope the vision that he had was not what we see on our public roads and the public spaces that we see around us. But then we thought that given that Bangalore, I mean, we might be making news for some of the wrong reasons like traffic, garbage, water, and what have you, but we also make news for the right reasons about being the startup capital, tech capital, and a whole lot of other, the best talent in the country and stuff like that. So we said, let's do something that basically cements that position in the public mind. And that's why we came up with this property called Futures. This is really the first edition of Futures within a second edition of the Bangalore Hubba. And we said, let futures represent the future of anything. It could be the future of living, the future of work, AI, whatever you want to talk about, future of sports. Today, we are, of course, going to be talking about 6 thematic talks around futures. And the idea really was to get started with these kind of conversations. Our pipe dream really is that maybe in a few years, this could become a 3-day, 4-day kind of conclave with arts, future conversations and the like, and we get the best and the brightest year on year to discuss about the future for humanity. That really was the background. We are extremely happy, everything that we do in the Bangalore Hubba is actually free to attend, whether you're going for arts and culture events or this conversation. And in the context of futures, when we spoke to Process and Ashutosh at Process, it just took one call with a stranger to say we are on board. So thanks very much, Process, for coming on board to support the Futures event as part of the overall BLR Hubba. Let's move on. Just to give you a sense of what's coming today, the first session, we will have a conversation with Aravind, founder of Rapido. He'll be in conversation with Dhruv as soon as I'm done. This will be followed by Jack Sim. He runs the World Toilet Organization, an extremely fascinating person. Think of, Sulabh Sauchalya and Swachh Bharat on a global scale. That's Jack Sim. So that will be the second session. Then we'll break for lunch. And post-lunch, we'll have Sunil Amrit talking about the future of human history. He's from Yale. That will be followed by Anuprita Das, who is currently with the New York Times, earlier with the Wall Street Journal, who will talk about the future of newsroom. That will then be followed by a conversation with Harsha, which Ashutosh will have. And this will be about actually the future of human convenience. He's the founder of Swiggy. And the last talk of the evening will be by Ed Smith. He is a former English cricket player, sports writer, and quite a person who sees into the future of the areas that he works with. So that'll be the talk from 5 to 6. And for those of you who are inclined, from 7 to 9, because it's a Futures Day, we also had a challenge grant where people have pitched solutions for Bangalore. About 300 applications came up with solutions, and about 8 of them have been shortlisted, out of which 5 best solutions will be given grants to work on their solutions for Bangalore. So it's a pretty packed day in more ways than one, and I thank you all for coming this early in the morning. I'd now like to invite Aravind, founder of Rapido, and Dhruv of Process to come on stage and kick off our first session. Thank you very much.
Hello. Welcome everyone, and thanks a lot, Aravind, for agreeing to do this. I think
a good place to begin would be just spending some time on the word called platform. It's probably a little overused, but I think Rapido is one of those platforms which have truly scaled over the last 10 years. Just wanted to spend some time on what you think are one of the most critical elements in building such a platform. What are the building blocks that you emphasized at the beginning, which has led to this 10-year journey?
Yeah, thanks Dhruv, and thanks the team for having me here. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say we are also truly a platform. 9 years back when we started this, we started with the point of how do we make transportation affordable, and that's where we started with, and then we said, obviously being started my work at Bangalore, seeing the traffic conditions over here, we felt how can we solve the traffic and how can we solve the daily commute problem because that's the pain because of lack of public infra, and also it's not affordable to move from one place to other, and that's where we started with the two-wheeler ride hailing as a concept, right? And then but over the time what we realized is we have started building some of the strengths, and that's what platform means. Like, how do you utilize your strengths and leverage the strengths and leverage the system that you have built, which is like loosely called platform, to do a lot more than what you are doing, right? For example, if you see the journey of Rapido in 9 years, for the 6 to 6.5 years, we were just doing two-wheeler ride hailing. So we brought in consumers, we brought in the captains, drivers whom we call captains. Like then we started seeing that how can we double down on what else can we give to the captains? How do can we leverage the system, the product that we have built, and that's where we started showing the power of platform by moving into the businesses which are very similar but which leverages what we have built. For example, the first business that we have gone to is the logistics business. So imagine we have the captains, but they're not free throughout the day because people commute at some point of time in a day. And that's where we started doing logistics or deliveries using the same people on the platform. And then slowly, that is on the one side of our marketplace, but on the second side is about the consumers, where we said beyond two-wheeler, what else can we give to the same user because they're coming onto the platform on regular basis. So that's where we went into three-wheeler, and then slowly now we went into four-wheeler, right? And what else platform means is more of how do you scale, because the fundamental of platform is once you start thinking about platform and then scale, so you have to be thinking about how do you do things faster, how do you leverage things faster, and how do you, let's say in our case, launching geographies is one of the thing of platform, because platform is more of a customer and captain where we said multiple businesses we will do, but every city is different. So multiple cities is also because of the leverage of platform that we have built.
And that's a very interesting point that you touched upon about systems and processes that have to be in place to be able to scale. And maybe if you could spend some time on telling us how do you ensure that scalability? I mean, Rapido is probably serving over 20 million customers across 100 cities. There are probably millions of concurrent users at a given point of time. How do you ensure the scalability of such systems at this scale?
Yeah, I mean, especially in our business, which is true to any platforms, but even more true to us because we operate in a very low ticket size business where it is less than our ride cost less than 60 rupees. So how do you kind of be profitable with by running a low ticket size business? At the same time, the scale that we are talking about, like every month, closer to 20 million customers use Rapido. So the biggest part is how do you build systems at scale, and how do you know that you are ready to actually scale? For example, I'll give you a small example that for the first 3.5 years, Rapido was operating in just two cities, and within 4 months, we went from two cities to 75 cities, right? So that is because we anticipated that what is needed for scale, and we started building both systems, processes, at the same time, cost efficiently. How do we launch multiple cities? So it is just about maybe looking at future when you are at present, in terms of anticipating the challenges that you get, and then trying to build, and it has to be tech leveraged because there is no other solution, especially when you're talking about scale and faster scale, but at the same time being cost efficient, right? So for us, it is about building systems. Whatever, for example, internally there is a thesis that if any work is done at least 4 to 5 times a month manually, it has to be automated. So and as many systems has to be built centralized, right? If there is something where each and every city is doing, which is not efficient because people-led processes will have a lot of gaps. So it has to be system-led, it has to be centralized. So a lot of way of functioning has to change once you think about scale. In the initial days when you're just figuring out product market fit is different, but the scale, the technology and some of the process changes has to happen, has to evolve from a scale point of view.
That's very interesting, and perhaps Rapido is one of the platforms where there's a large section of users and driver partners, which you call as captains, on one side. And sometimes managing the interests of both of these could be a very delicate act. How has your journey been in managing these two interests? Are they in conflict some of the times? How do you take those decisions?
Yeah, definitely. I think here there are three. One is our customers, one is our captains, and one is the platform as a company as well, right? Because we have to see the interest of kind of three players, right? Where we also want to make money, and then the customers and captains also need to see the value of the marketplace. So one thing is clear that among the three, we said the company comes last, saying that if there is a true value that is getting created to both sides of platform, then the platform will get benefited. So no need to separately see for the benefits of the platform or the company. We said so that is one thing, and the second thing is because of the problem that we are solving and because of the alternatives the consumers have. What the consumer side, we are pretty sure that we are cost efficient, people save time, so the value proposition is super strong. But if we have to take a choice. We always had taken a choice from a captain side or the driver partner side, because that's the side where we believe a lot of things has to be done for the industry to get evolved, for the gig economy to get formalized. There are very few people actually take care of them. Very few people actually care about them. So, but it's a very difficult choice because not every time again you can take the choice. But again, we do a balanced act between both. But if it's a clear gun on your head, you say that whom will you prioritize? Now we know the prioritization, but every time we think about the both sides.
And that's a very interesting aspect that you touched, that you probably prioritize the partners or the driver's partners first. And you are the first company to pioneer this zero commission model in India as well. And the question is that when you do something that disruptive and that innovative, I'm sure there is a mass of existing users which may not be as comfortable, or some of the users may not like that approach that you are bringing onto the table. How do you manage when you have to make such radical decisions? Is there a process within your company which allows you to change and introduce such changes?
Yeah, I think more than process is more about some of the principles. So, irrespective of whatever innovation that we do, irrespective of what initiative that we do, there are some principles which we don't want to change, which is like the true value that you're creating. One of the advantage of a company which operates at scale, or anyone who wants to operate at scale, is the problem has to be really real world problem. It can't be where some of the people might face it at some point of time, so let's do it. So it can't. We are very fortunate to take a problem statement where people really face it on day-to-day basis, almost every day in some cases, but it's very regularly. You can't even say maybe I face this at some point of time in a year. We are not solving that problem. We are solving a problem literally where people face it on very regular basis. So when people are facing on a regular basis, there are some of the principles actually you no need to change, which is like creating a true value to the user. So when we say we prioritize both, it is the table stakes are the true value doesn't have to change, which is like the ride has to be affordable, the ride has to be convenient, the ride has to be accessible from the consumer side. From a captain side, it has to be transparent. Whatever you promise, you have to give it. There should not be any more hidden things from a partner point of view, right? So these things are table stake. Whatever you do, this has to be met, and then on top of that, then the conflict comes, and that's where you choose the side. So I think that having principles at scale, especially when you're solving for masses. We're talking about in the last 1 year, more than 60 million people would have used Rapido. So when you're talking about that kind of scale, the advantage is you can be simple, you can be, no need to be too much complicated, and it has to be simple.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting lesson that despite this scale, there are a few simple principles at its core, which has allowed you to serve over 60 million consumers. And of these 60 million consumers, it's a very unique story in Rapido that a good proportion of these come from outside of the metro cities. And the cohort that we call the India Next or the next 200, 300 million people represents a very interesting opportunity. I'm sure that you must have noticed some differences in behavior or differences in the solutions that need to be adapted to solve for the cohort of users. Have you seen any changes or any unique aspects about solving for the next 200 million people?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, again, sitting in Bangalore for us, definitely it is one other app which is coming and picking you and dropping you wherever you want. If not bike, a car will come. If not car, an auto will come. If not auto, maybe a bus will come. Or a public transport is there. So there are multiple alternatives and then multiple choices that that we have here. But go to a tier 2, tier 3 city where there is hardly a public transport, there is hardly a cab hailing market. For them, when the first time when someone is using a two-wheeler ride hailing, it's a privilege for them. I mean, they used to feel maybe a five-star experience. Like when you go to a any five-star hotel, you feel like, okay, someone is caring for me a lot more, right, than whatever I expected, right? So someone picking you at your doorstep in a tier 2, tier 3 city is a dream, right? Because what you do, you walk till a main road and then the share auto comes and then it drops you and then again you walk. That's what you have used to in your life. And suddenly someone is coming and picking you at your doorstep. So what we have seen is, I mean, the love for the solution that you are building at these smaller cities is like much more, I would say, satisfying than when I see people here saving time in the traffic. And the second thing, the big part of what we do is creating employment locally. Imagine someone, let's say someone from Mysore or let's say someone from Shivamogga or Bangalore. Earlier, what they used to do, they used to come to Bangalore and then get some job here to make their ends meet. But what Rapido does is wherever you are from, irrespective of tier 2, tier 3, at least in the top 200 cities that we operate, if you need an earning opportunity, it can be 100 more rupees or 500 more rupees or a full-time job. We are a solution, we are an alternative. Without knowing any additional skill, the only skill that is required is how to run a bike and how to run a smartphone. Once you know these two skills, which majority of India knows, you can literally make money whenever you want. So the creating local employment and creating employment at scale. So in the last one quarter, the last 90 days, more than 2.5 million people, 25 lakh people made money on Rapido, right? So that is the scale that we're talking about, and very few opportunities out there, especially these days, to create jobs, especially again where the skill gap is also not there, right? So I think that is something we are super fortunate that by in one way we are solving a consumer problem on regular basis, but what we are solving is the biggest problem in the country, which is unemployment.
That's really fascinating. I mean, I'm sure you must be now systematically important to the employment situation in this country. And when you scale from 2 cities to 75 cities and then to over 100 cities, you mobility being a sector, you have to interact with the governments, you have to work with policymakers. I know you work with Swiggy also, they're an investor. In managing all of these stakeholders which are outside of the platform and outside of the people who use the platform, what has your learnings been on managing such kind of stakeholders?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you look at again the basic principle of the value has to be created on the both the sides, and the problem is so massive that you can't do it alone. So you have to build ecosystem around it. You have to get support around it because it is a product which is a physical in nature. People are meeting each other, and there is a complementary behavior to an existing public transport. So and at the same time, different partners like as I said, we also do logistics. So multiple businesses whom we work with to create demand. So one of the big thing is because we look at a kind of a win-win situation for everyone. Like when you go to the government, we say two things. One, we are creating local employment at scale. We need your support. We are creating an complementary public transport where people are using, let's say, metro, and you need a solution for last mile and first mile. So we need the support, right? So from a government side, it is definitely creating employment and then reducing traffic congestion because of the solution that we are doing. For example, we also do a shared rides, like the same vehicle, the same auto can be used by two different consumers going the same direction, which is a big thing as you because it helps in reducing the traffic and then obviously get the value from the consumers and then the driver makes more money. So it is a solution where everyone in the ecosystem is getting benefited with one small solution, right? So I think the core principle of if it is getting value from everyone and it's solving a meta problem of the country and then the city, so we take support from the ecosystem. And the same thing with this Swiggy's of the world or ONDCs of the world also, right? Where people are looking at a logistics partner who can deliver at scale, deliver in multiple cities, and the time when it is needed. And we have the platform where we have built millions of captains who are willing to serve the demand that they are getting, right? So I think staying, and as I said, we are the smallest beneficiary on the overall thing. Like for example, right? So because moving away from a commission, so we don't take any commission on every ride. So everything goes to the captain. We only take an, irrespective of how much he makes, he only pays us some extra fee per day, which makes it even more. So we're not optimizing for anything. We just are optimizing for the final driver to make more money, and then we are the smallest beneficiary for that.
That's fascinating. And when we talk about the ecosystem, I think, especially within mobility, electric is one of the big themes, right? And probably the ecosystem is a little bit early. There are some peers who are trying to make a fully electric focused mobility solution. I'm sure you will be have to at the forefront of whatever is happening at that side of the things. What has your strategy been? What are your thoughts on electric vehicle and its ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, so if you again look at the fundamental of how we have started, we said that India has already a lot of vehicles on ground. So we need to bring these vehicles on the platform and we need to use them efficiently. So the thesis always has been that I don't want to add more vehicles on ground. I just need to replace existing vehicles or increase the utilization of existing vehicles. So that has been the strategy right from the start. And hence we are seeing how can we accelerate the driver ultimately buying an EV because there are benefits of buying EV just from a driver point of view, just increasing the earnings as the more kilometers that you travel, right? So because there is a real need from a driver's side, we want him to buy an EV compared to an ICE based on the availability of the vehicle which can suit his need, right? So what we are doing is one, again, we are taking ecosystem platform play. So we are working with multiple OEMs, we are working with multiple financiers, we are working with multiple fleet operators who can help in accelerating it before the driver makes a choice to buy by himself, right? So definitely we are taking that approach where, and in some cities where if we don't find any partners, we are becoming a partner, right? For example, in Bangalore, we, with the help of our leasing partner, we run electric auto rickshaws and we are the largest we are one of the largest fleet that operates in the country who operates on EV and everything in Bangalore, right? So we are taking an approach of platform again, and then if there is no players within the platform where we can do it, then we are becoming that player, and then slowly we're coming out of it. So that's the approach that we have taken.
I think that's fascinating, and one of the aspects that you keep highlighting is that the platform approach, the principles that have to be at its core, and probably taking a step back and going to the way you are building an organization. You're touching so many aspects. You have to move fast. It's an evolving ecosystem. How do you build that culture within Rapido that you have to ship, you have to keep things moving, you have to deliver fast? What are some of the cultural aspects that you do touch upon at Rapido?
Yeah, one of the values in the company is stay close to the ground. That is one of the big part of whatever we have built, whatever we have understood, the products that we build, everything comes from the ground insights and coming from top-down meeting rooms. So I think that is one core value and philosophy that we believed. So that is a way of functioning. But the second one is, again, we are fortunate to solve a problem where even our team members face it, and even our team members can visualize what they are building, right? For example, you ship a product today, you can literally see the impact of it from next hour or the next day of what it is actually doing to the users and doing to the captains. And you hear back the stories after you build that product, which happens very rarely in this world, right? Imagine someone working in some services company building some product. You don't even know what end consumers are finally facing. When will it actually go, and when will it actually scale, right? So one of the big part of culturally what helped us is every team member at Rapido also thinks impact first, and they also feel the change that we are doing in the market and in the industry, that we are true to what we say, we are true to what we signed up for. I think once, and people also see this on a regular basis on the decisions that we are taking, the launches that we are doing, the change that it is getting into, etc. So right, so and this part of finally hearing the stories of captains. So we have internally something called drives of discovery, where every team member has to do at least 10 rides in a month as a customer
So
or
you're
as a
saying
captain.
that a team member has to ride an auto themselves? Is that what you try to ensure?
Yeah, so we have autos and cars parked in our office. Anyone can take and ride it for a few hours and get it back. And few people take to the home and come to the office on that vehicles as well. But so, and that is as a captain. And as a user, it is so easy because you can use it anyway. So as a user, you talk to the captain, you become a captain, talk to the customer, and that itself gives a lot of insights. And the tone of the pain from the customer on the captain will change the pace of the product, right?
And some of these product decisions, how much of it is data driven? You look at trends, you apply ML, AI, and then try to figure out what to do, or how much of it is just instincts and guts and the on ground research that you kind of hinge on?
Yeah, I mean, again, because of the scale and the time that we have spent, nothing is, again, not so obvious problems, because so obvious problems we would have solved it. Definitely, it's a combination of definitely a lot of data and then a lot of analysis in some way also happens. And then we validate it. The biggest part is we just don't take it on face value. You get something from data and then you just don't go and just build it from the next day. You try to validate it. Whether is this what the consumers are actually feeling. So I think that those are some of the cultural aspects on how you function. Has to be, again, this has to do scalably, because not in every room the founders are there who believe in this vision, right? This way of working. So it goes to the leadership, it goes to the mid managers, it goes to the team members, that there is, irrespective of the management being in the room, they know how management team think to make the decision, right? So I think some of these things, because I mean, the beauty of a company which spent 9 years is that maybe we didn't grow within a year or two. So it has been built over time, and these things started working, and then slowly started believing in it, etc.
No, and this is truly amazing what you've built in 9 years, and perhaps AI is one of those things that I can't not help ask. There is a lot of noise and there is a lot of clutter, but can you help us clear out some of this noise and maybe give us a directional sense of where do you think AI is actually creating an impact? For example, a company like Rapido, are you seeing any use cases? Are you seeing any proof points of it actually being useful and being implemented?
Yeah, I mean, slowly AI is a part of the work these days. I mean, maybe not completely something AI first. It's just that you don't call something technology first, right? You think tech first when you're building systems, when you're scaling scaling the company. So now it is slowly changing into, you also see that if the same thing can be done by AI, so just accelerate that a lot more faster, right? Ideally, things are faster in shipping the products, faster in maybe creating images in social media and creating content. right? So it's a part of everything, right? From verifying some legal document to creating an image, creating a video, to obviously developer productivity in general. So it is a part of working, part of thing. But obviously, customer support is obvious use case where how do you automate things, how do you leverage that, and then obviously to reduce the cost. And sometimes it's also increase the experience, right? Sometimes we have seen that the AI giving some of the content is a lot more sharper to maybe compared to a people sitting in front of the laptop, right? So I think so. There are now it is being a part of each and everything that company is doing. But yeah, but at the core of it, it's still the consumers and the drivers who are physical, and then humans who are driving the entire change. It's just that the functioning is becoming faster, and hence maybe we can do more experiments faster. We can do more, budget can be reduced, and then that can be put back into the growth. So that is a part of, at least for our way of functioning.
Got it. And maybe a couple of last questions from my side before we give it to the audience. I think just taking a step back and looking at it from a very macro picture, every country has its own mobility problems, right? Perhaps in the US, cities are more designed for cars than for people. In India, maybe it's the opposite. What, in your view, is the biggest challenge in mobility right now in India, apart from probably an obvious one being congestion? What are the things that keep you up at night and you're still raring to go?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. How do you make it efficient and then become affordable? Because the solution to Indian mobility problems is not just keep on buying more vehicles. Like if India reaches the vehicle ownership like US, then we can't even imagine the roads or the congestion going at least let's say 5-6x to what it is right now, right? So and hence, how do you make people actually use public transport? Um, is literally a problem statement that we are working on. Like we are saying that okay, people have to use public transport.
Isn't public transport the opposite of what Rapido stands for? How does it fit into your strategy?
Yeah, I mean that's the challenge, right? I mean, if everyone use Rapido, then I don't think roads are signed up for that, right? So you can't have everyone using Rapido as a solution. So public transport and shared mode of commute is the way to go, and hence how do we solve for that, right? For example, we are trying to make that experience so seamless once you come out of a metro or once you're going to a metro. So that is one classic example, and we are talking about how can you use your vehicle to share your ride, and then make it both affordable and also making convenient, right? And obviously EV and hence affordability still if we reaches the affordability goal, and also going deeper. Right now, mobility in India, even though we are penetrated beyond the top 10 cities, but it's still the phenomena of at least top 40, top 50 cities. But you have to go to 500 and 1000 cities, and that's where you are solving it at scale, right? So I think it's about penetrating further, and complemented to the public transport.
And ensuring that not all people use Rapido, right?
Yeah,
That's an out.
exactly.
Got it. And maybe just the one last thing. Uh, the last 10 years, the scale up has been amazing, 20 million users. And what are the next 5 years going to look like? What are some of the big challenges, big trends that you foresee, especially for maybe even for founders who are looking to build platform businesses of their own? How will a platform business look like in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah. So see again, if you look at 20 million people, it looks like a very big number, but we are talking about a population of 1.4 billion, right? So we definitely think that there is a lot of different solutions that has to come in if I have to reach to let's say 100 million people using Rapido, than what it is right now, right? So we will be looking at how can we, as I said, how can we just make it even more affordable and then seamless, and then at scale. So I think the solutions might look differently to what we are right now, but the theme is that. And at the same time, for anyone who is building platform, if you're really saying it's a platform, again, a lot of people build something but say it as platform. Well, if you're truly building a platform, you should give a lot of value to the both sides of or multiple sides of your platform, your ecosystem that it is, which is in our case it's the customer and captain. So we firmly believe that the customers and captains should get the most value than actually a platform, because a platform gets more value from a scale. It can't get value from every transaction that you do. It has to be from your scale and the leverage that you build. So I think that's the suggestion for anyone who's building platforms, that first solve for a PMF and then start building for a platform. Once you build systems for platform, for example, once we decide to launch cabs, we launch in 10 days. So 10 days we just launched a category, and we launched in 50 cities within 1 month of deciding that we want to launch a cab, right? So that is the scale, that is the benefit that you get once you start building platform first and thinking about a platform than building it for the sake of.
That's a super way to end it, and I think the crux is that you have to solve for people on the platform first, and then ensure that the platform remains scalable, and that is the core of it. Great. I think we'll open it to the audience. If they have any questions, you can raise your hand, and there will be a mic near you. I think we have one over there.
Hi. First of all, congratulations on coming into the Unicorn Club. I think that's a great feat. I have a two-part question. My first question is, this week Uber recently launched a women-only bike taxi. Do you also intend to go into this category? This is my first question, and I'll ask a follow-up on this.
Yeah, we already been operating from 6 months in Chennai. So we have been experimenting and figuring out the problems in that category. So yeah, we are already live. It's just that this city hasn't seen it. We are going to come big way.
Got it. Thank you. My next question is, when we look at mobility in a global ecosystem, from a 20,000 uh, viewpoint, right? Where does India or where does Bangalore stand when it comes to mobility? Of course, there are limitations and bottlenecks in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of mobility and technology, where do we stand?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, globally, if you see any developed country, one of the big part is public infra or public transport. That's where Bangalore is getting better. I mean, as more and more metro lines are getting extended, I think that is going to be one big boost for this city. I mean, that is where we see where lack of good public infra or good central transportation, if I may call from a mobility point of view, I think that's what creates the city livable at scale. Because if you look at any densely populated cities globally, one big part is majority of the people actually use public transport than their own vehicle to commute on regular basis. So I think that is the thing. Again, we are getting better, but definitely not not there completely.
Can I ask one more question? Uh, as a founder of a very scalable solution, what are key decisions that you think are on your plate and your plate alone, leaving apart the smart people that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. First, we need to know where, how to give space to the team to take decisions. I think that is the transition as a founder. How do you slowly make people take decisions, and then maybe even if they fail, how do you back them? But at the same time, how do you think about future sitting in the present? Obviously, that's a big part of the job that we do. That we should anticipate disruption, or we should disrupt the market, or we should keep thinking about the future and visualizing future when you don't have anything, or just sometimes just believing in the future. I mean, when I started, there is no geo, there is no UPI. We just thought India will get better, and more people will come to internet. Let's not try to solve that. Let's try to solve once people comes in, what will happen, right? So I think sometimes it's about prioritizing what is important as a company becomes the key as you start becoming big. At the same time, how do you decentralize some of the decision making, where you are not involved in that room, but your principles are still being in that room, right? So that is something I would say that is a scalable way of building the business or building the team.
Thank you.
I think we have a couple of questions over there.
Hi. I have a question about Indian consumer. Do you think Indian consumers see transportation as a utility which needs to be consumed, or they see it as an asset, as a status symbol? Because we see like fancy cars and all. Like, because that's also a kind of milestone people look forward to in life. And this traction of on demand, is it driven by utilitarian value, or is just because congestion is so bad that they don't want to stuck in it? Like, because we have summarily, let's just say, Yulu hasn't really picked up the way it has picked up in China. So what exactly is evolving preference of Indian consumer here?
I would say a combination of convenience plus utility. So it is a utility need, but it doesn't mean that they're okay with any convenient at any cost or at any hit of their convenience. So I mean that's where like 40% of our consumers have their own vehicle, but they still use Rapido just because they also need convenience. But if you look at like let's say someone owning an SUV, their cost per kilometer is like 10 rupees, which is the cost of our bike taxi, right? So I think from an utility point of view, we are also cost efficient. That's a beauty, or we have to be even more affordable. But I would say it is definitely a combination of utility plus convenience. Because take the same city in a smaller city, because there is no any traffic problem, but still, why do people use Rapido? It's just because if it is convenient and if it is maybe some bugs here and there, they're actually still okay with it. So it comes at some threshold of price, but if it is within that range, people opt for convenience. I don't see, at least for the class of people that we are talking about, I don't see it as they don't feel the status symbol of I am using ride sharing, so people will see me differently compared to coming on my own vehicle. Definitely nothing like that. Actually, they feel proud to actually use ride sharing than driving their own vehicle because people think they are smart.
Okay, hello. Okay, hi. My name is Raghu. Thanks for sharing your views. Just a few quick questions. You mentioned that you don't take any commission from these captains. I like the name captain, by the way. But so, what's your revenue stream? So that's one thing. And when are you planning to expand globally outside India? And the third thing is one of the things, and I've taken a couple of rides, especially on two-wheelers. I'm always concerned about what happens if there is an accident. So what's the liability aspect there? Who is to be held responsible, right? And the last thing is, I'm a visitor here, to India. I have a problem with payment. The last thing, I don't have UPI, so I always have cash. Credit cards are not accepted. So just a request, maybe a credit card option to be saved, would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I forgot your first question. But maybe let me answer these things, right? So, first thing on the safety, which is a core philosophy, when we started or when we got this idea of two-wheeler ride hailing, we know that unless we solve the problem of safety, we will not scale it. So we are the first company 9 years back to say that every ride on Rapido will be insured for both sides of marketplace, like the customer and the captain. So what does that mean is we work with insurance companies and say that during the ride, anything happens, right? Even a 2,000 rupees of OPD to 5 lakh of even a hospitalization or anything will be taken care by the platform with the insurance partner. So, and it's very seamless. You just open an app, upload the prescription or the documents, and then we'll reimburse whatever that you have go through. So I think that is the, again, as I said, 9 years back, we are hardly doing any rides where it is not mandatory from the government to actually back then to give insurance to all the rights, but we said we have to do it. And also from a safety point of view, like the captain comes with 2 helmets, one for the customer and one for himself. So we do a proactive measures. We also do in case something happens, but also through this, right? And then on the revenue model, again, we are a subscription business. That means a captain pays us daily X rupees. Just say that, for example, 15 rupees to 25 rupees, and then he can earn as much as he can. So that is a revenue stream which we try to save, right? On the payments, yes, maybe we are an UPI first platform. So we encourage people to use UPI and pay directly to the captains because, again, in the world of transparency, one thing that we said is whatever customer pays in the app, you saying that whatever customer pays goes to the captain is different from you actually show that, right? So we don't just say that on the app, but it literally means whatever you pay, everything goes to the captain, right? So I think that that's how, yeah, maybe we're restricted to UPI, but we'll figure out as we entered into four-wheeler. Slowly, this becoming that we have to solve for it. We'll be doing that in the course of time. Anything I have, Anand?
Yeah.
Global, internally we say that, for example, Jaipur is bigger than Sri Lanka entirely. So let's first solve for Jaipur, then going there. So we want to go super deep into India, and that will be the first focus. Once we feel that we have done here, and then we'll think about global.
This is very insightful, and thanks for sharing your insights. I had two questions. One is, you mentioned that as a founder, one of the core responsibilities you have retained for yourself is thinking about the future, right? So what's your process to, like, first of all, gather good ideas for the future, and how do you narrow down on what you would actually realize in Rapido?
Yeah, it's a very painful process because it's not easy. And something looks obvious means someone else is already solving it, or multiple people are thinking about the same thing. So what we realized is it has to be a part of your day-to-day job. Nothing one fine day you just think about ideas, you might not get it. But how do you constantly invest on that? And as I said, it has to be a combination of users and also you visualizing it. So I would say a combination of research, combination of talking to the customers, combination of seeing what people are doing globally, to what else can we do from our strengths point of view. So it is a combination of multiple things, and again, we should be okay for failure, whatever it gets. So yeah, I would say that's at least that's what we are following.
Great. My second question was regarding the flexibility that you mentioned, right? Like your goal remains the same, but the form of the solution that Rapido takes might look very different in the future, is what you mentioned. So this also involves the team to be very, very flexible in adapting new ideas as well, right? Like, so what are some counterintuitive things that you've, like, initially you might have thought, I would never do this, but you ended up going that way, right? Are there some counterintuitive decisions you've had to take in the past, keeping this flexibility in mind?
Yeah, so for example, not counterintuitive, but one other thing is we don't have a lot of layers in the company. So people take decisions even at that level, and then not that they have to satisfy the decisions to multiple layers in the company. So that is one thing that we believed in. And second one, we also hear even from the ground team, like let's say someone sitting in Patiala saying something that this is needed for my city will also be heard in some shape or form into the product roadmap that we get, right? So it's just about the way of functioning, and also building from tech first. When I say tech first, that we know we are operating in 100 cities, our team strength is less than 600 people. So how do you literally build at scale without actually being people dependent for smaller things? That means you have to think tech first. You have to think the process had to be automated than doing manually. Yeah.
I think that's. Can we take another question? Okay, one more.
Hi, Arvind. Thanks for this amazing session. So, when you're building, I have two questions. The first one is when you're building a company, how do you take a call? How do you balance between scalability and profitability? Or is there a guideline as to a company should reach a certain scale and then think about profitability, or something around that?
Depends on kind of business that you build. We are a definitely heavy LTV business where our users whom we acquired 9 years back are also still using Rapido. So and hence we have a more and more actually leverage and optionality to actually invest on growth. But I would say from my experience, scale is the only thing that answers all your questions, and then profitability, but keeping an eye on being cost efficient. So maybe that's already a part of our company. So every solution being cost efficient, but just solving for scale, maximize everything, or just create the market, and that's what will help you in any way for your fundraising or in general expanding the market than just taking the market share. We never think about taking the market share. We always think about how do we create the market, right? So try to solve that creating a market and scale as a problem, and then keeping an eye on profitability, but it doesn't mean that you have to be profitable from day one.
Okay, thank you so much. It kind of answered my second question as well.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Arvind. I think the focus on scale, profit, and profitability not being a priority, but solving for scale first is truly insightful. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dhruv. Thanks, everyone.